Vai encerrado. A joga vai encerrar. Faz parte do jogo, Poatan? Acontece.
So here's something that's about to completely flip the MMA world upside down. Jon Jones just gave the green light to face Alex Pereira. And get this, he's talking about doing it at the White House. Yeah, you heard that right, the actual White House. This isn't just some casual acceptance either. Jones came back with that ice-cold confidence we all know, dropping a location that's absolutely mind-blowing. When presidents make decisions that change the world, Jon Jones wants to handle business there too. His response was perfect. Quote, "Alex, I'd be down to bring the highest skill level to the White House. I appreciate the respect you showed. Let's dance." That's not answering a call-out. That's creating a moment nobody will ever forget. And Joe Rogan, the man was bouncing off the walls, talking about Jones versus Pereira becoming reality. Sure, Tom Aspinall is still floating around in conversations, but the real money fight that could demolish every pay-per-view record in existence is this Jones and Pereira collision, especially if they actually manage to make it happen at the White House, which would be completely unheard of in combat sports.
I would imagine that Jon is preparing, because like Jon has different places to train. You know, he doesn't just train at one place.
Yeah.
But I could imagine he does a lot of weightlifting too. He got put on a lot of like real muscle mass when he went up to heavyweight.
Yeah.
If Jon really thinks he's going to fight Alex Pereira, he's getting ready.
Yeah.
He's at least getting ready in his mind.
Would it be Alex, or you think it would be
Alex.
really?
Yeah,
So the Tom ship has sailed.
No, it hasn't sailed, but the big money fight.
Now Joe Rogan took this whole thing to another level by actually mapping out exactly how this dream fight would work. He got super detailed about the mechanics, pushing hard for a catchweight bout right around 215 pounds, which splits things right down the middle. Think about why this makes total sense. Pereira rules the light heavyweight division at 205, while Jones is comfortable up in heavyweight territory. A catchweight eliminates any size advantages and makes it purely about who's the better fighter. Rogan's logic here is absolutely spot on because it solves the biggest headache everyone's been arguing about. You can't expect Pereira to pack on heavyweight muscle, and asking Jones to cut back down to 205 at this point would be insane. So you meet right in the middle, keep it fair, and let pure skill decide everything.
You know, Alex still is the light heavyweight champion. Make it a catchweight fight. You don't have to be for a title. Make it the bad mother upper edition. You know, you have the BMF belt for 155ers. Who's the real BMF?
Yeah.
You know, do you think one of those guys could beat Alex Pereira?
Someone asked Joe if a featherweight like Max Holloway could hang with Alex Pereira, and Rogan's answer was instant. No, shut the hell up. He wasn't throwing shade at Holloway, who's obviously a beast in his own division, but Rogan was pointing out that Pereira operates in a completely different universe of power. Then Joe broke down something really fascinating about Pereira's personality. Outside the cage, the guy is zen peaceful, almost monk-like in how he carries himself. But the second that fight starts, he transforms into something completely different. Rogan called him a humble yet terrifying individual. And when's the last time you heard that combination in this sport, where everyone's constantly running their mouth? Pereira doesn't need the trash talk because his hands do all the communicating he needs. When that cage locks, Rogan said it perfectly, he becomes a complete animal, and the transformation is genuinely frightening to witness.
Pereira, a guy who's the same age as you, and we walk around the same exact size. Right now, I had to eat a big breakfast because I'm getting underneath 235. Pereira walks around at like 240, and he has magnificent accolades. Business-wise, it makes more.
These two have been circling each other for years now, never really going at each other disrespectfully, but always acknowledging that the other one is dangerous. They move around each other like two apex predators who recognize they're looking at another killer. Both guys know deep down that if they ever actually clash, it's going to create a completely new chapter in MMA history, the type of fight people will still be breaking down 20 years from now. This would be career-defining for both men. Now that Jones is seriously nodding toward making this happen, the entire world is holding its breath, waiting for what could be the most significant battle between two legends from completely different eras of the sport, potentially meeting for the biggest moment of their lives.
I'm going to call him this, fight the nobody. that may be more dangerous, or fight the guy with all the accolades who's incredibly dangerous, but it actually will affect your legacy. Where when you look back and it's like, John just beat Alex Pereira, it's bigger. It's just much bigger. And anybody who can't understand that logic simply doesn't want to.
Jones gave Pereira some serious props recently. And that means something because Jones doesn't hand out respect easily. He said Pereira is his preferred choice because he brings everything you want in a legendary opponent, and they're basically the same size when you factor in that catchweight idea. Jones specifically called him a dangerous animal, but with complete respect, saying that fighting Pereira could elevate both their legacies to another level entirely. What Jones is really saying here cuts deep. He's not fighting for belts or paychecks anymore at this stage of his career. He's fighting to cement his place in history forever. When you're chasing that kind of immortality, you don't pick easy fights. You go after the most dangerous people on the planet. Right now, Pereira represents that ultimate test. A proven knockout machine who's dominated 2 different divisions and carries this aura like he's untouchable.
I know he doesn't make the fights, you know, it's what the UFC wants to do, but if it was up to him, what does he think is the most exciting and most probable matchup next?
Peso pesado. Casa Branca, John Jones.
John Jones.
Super luta.
White House, John Jones.
Pereira showed incredible class during a recent interview when he said that even if Jones lost this fight, it wouldn't damage his legacy or take away from everything he's accomplished throughout his incredible run. That's the kind of respect you rarely see in this game. Then Pereira added that a fight this massive deserved a setting that matched its importance, something way beyond a regular arena or stadium. That's when he suggested the White House would be the perfect backdrop for a clash of this magnitude. Picture the symbolism there. The White House, where American power lives, hosting a war between 2 of MMA's most lethal weapons, pushing each other to their absolute limits. It would prove that MMA has finally arrived as a completely mainstream sport, getting recognized at the highest levels of government and society. Pereira understands this isn't just about him and Jones anymore. This is about pushing the entire sport into new territory.
Todo respeito, entendeu? Não sei como que eu falo isso, entendeu?
But I'm saying that with all due respect. I don't want to come off.
Momento, né, que, pô, não sei se eu deveria estar falando, mas também de uma forma, né, eu acho que eu também tenho uma liberdade de falar, porque eu já passei por isso, né? Então, talvez uma forma até de ele tá se motivando, né, agora. Eu acho que eu e o John Jones, pô, a gente fizemos muitas coisas. Um exemplo, se o John Jones perde pra mim, pô, ele vai ser o melhor de todos os tempos pra mim. Isso nada vai mudar pra ele. Eu acho que é só para ter a super luta.
These two have been absolutely untouchable in their divisions, the kind of dominance that makes other fighters question their life choices. John Bones Jones has been universally recognized as one of the greatest fighters in UFC history, destroying opponents with a combination of technique, fight IQ that's off the charts, and physical skills that nobody in his weight class has ever matched. Jones made his position crystal clear recently, explaining that he's not chasing quick money or fame at this point in his career. He already has both of those things. Instead, he said that for a super fight like this, he needs to face someone who's already a legend in their own right, a dangerous and proven fighter who represents the new generation taking the sport into the future. That's exactly what Pereira is, the evolution of MMA, the new breed of fighter pushing the sport into places it's never been.
Alex is 38 years old and probably thinking at this point, how do I go and make another statement that I am the guy? Hell, if he went to beat John Jones at heavyweight, Alex Pereira would literally cement himself to almost stand above everyone because he would have beaten a former UFC light heavyweight champion and heavyweight champion, and the guy many considers the greatest fighter of all time.
Chael Sonnen, who always has interesting takes on fights, broke down Pereira's mindset and said this isn't about money, fame, or even championship gold for Alex. According to Sonnen's analysis, this is pure competition in its rawest form, testing himself against one of the greatest of all time to find out who really stands above everyone else when everything's on the line. This is about legacy, about being able to look yourself in the mirror when you're old and knowing you fought the absolute best, without ever backing down from anyone.
Why does Alex Pereira want to fight John Jones? Don't tell me money. Pereira's rich. There's no title. It largely is what is so admirable about Pereira's call-out. It's not about the money. It's not about the title. He's got a title. John does not have a title. A legit competitor behind the fame and the money and the cameras wants to know, am I better than you or are you better than me?
Sonnen continued by saying, and this is where he really hit the nail on the head, that both Alex and Jones have been absolutely dominant in their respective divisions, and now it's time to figure out which one is the superior martial artist when they collide on equal terms under the same rules with nowhere to run. He really emphasized that this fight would be about legacy first and foremost, about skill and ability at the highest level, and about respect between two champions from different worlds who would meet to answer the ultimate question, who's the best to ever do it? That's what makes this fight so compelling. It's not built on fake drama or manufactured beef. It's about two masters of their craft wanting to test themselves against the ultimate challenge.
It's merely a question of would you, the audience, accept John, 205 pounds, without doing the whole you're scared, you didn't want to fight at heavyweight. They both got arguments to the greatest of all time. But we don't have to argue. There is a way to find out. Put him in the cage.
Meanwhile, Alex Pereira represents the modern warrior. Someone who climbed through the brutal world of kickboxing and captured 2 UFC divisions in record time, which is absolutely insane when you break it down. His rise has been honestly cinematic, like something straight out of a movie script. Matt Brown shared his thoughts on the potential Jones versus Pereira fight, calling it one of the most dangerous and unpredictable matchups in combat sports history. He explained that Jones would be a nightmare for any opponent, including someone as dangerous as Pereira, because of his unmatched fight IQ, his wrestling control that can shut down strikers, and his ability to completely change strategies and adapt mid-fight under pressure. Jones is like a chess grandmaster in there, always thinking 3 moves ahead of everyone else.
Pressure. What Alex and John is going to do is have a ridiculous build-up, right? Like where everybody's going to be pumped. There's going to be people betting on Alex. There's going to be people, just like Conor going and fighting Floyd, right? There's going to be people like, oh yeah, Conor's got a chance. I think Alex has a better chance than Conor did against Floyd, by the way. But you get my point, right? Like the matchup is literally the nightmare matchup for Alex Pereira. Like John is as big, probably bigger. I think probably a little bit bigger than Alex Pereira. A heavyweight, certainly bigger.
Simultaneously, but Brown also recognized the pure power, pinpoint accuracy, and ice-cold composure that Pereira brings, which is exactly why this matchup wouldn't just be a sporting event, but a showcase of danger and brilliance colliding in real time. Brown said this fight would be, and I'm quoting him directly, 1,000,000 times better than almost anything else the UFC could put together right now, because of the contrasting styles, the massive stakes, and the pure unpredictability of what could happen when these two lock themselves in that octagon together.
A wrestler, like there's no possible way in hell that Alex, his wrestling is to John Jones's level at this point. Even if John Jones is out doing cocaine for the last year and then just shows up and fight.
Despite all the massive hype, and this fight is generating absolutely insane levels of excitement, plenty of critics have raised concerns about the Jones versus Pereira matchup, mainly focusing on weight class differences and safety issues. Matt Brown addressed this directly, saying that what Jones and Pereira would bring isn't just entertainment for the masses, but rather a elite-level battle between two of the most experienced and skilled fighters in the game. He argued that it could only be properly honored by the location that's been suggested, the White House itself. The venue would match the magnitude of the fight, something that's never been attempted before in combat sports.
What is your hesitation about him going up to heavyweight? He's mentioned it a few times in the past. He always wanted that John Jones fight, and I understand why maybe that fight wasn't appealing to you, but what is your reservations about sending him to heavyweight at this point?
Probably that he was a middleweight. He was a middleweight. He's going to jump up 2 weight classes in the UFC. It's not like jumping up 2 weight classes in boxing. It's a big jump.
Dana White has been dealing with increasingly loud suggestions about Alex Pereira moving up to heavyweight to fight John Jones, and it's obvious from his public comments that he's not exactly thrilled with the idea, at least not right now. He's explained in multiple interviews that weight divisions exist to ensure fairness, safety, and competitive balance. These aren't just random lines drawn for no reason. Whatever else you might say about White, he's always been protective of his fighters.
Not that I have any reservations about it. I mean, the guy is he's in a division that there's still some interesting fights. I don't know. It's just I like the guy so much. We'll see. We'll have to talk about it. I just don't see why, unless he wants to retire, why throwing him in at heavyweight makes any sense. Other than I just end up saying he wants to do it so bad. I'll just say yes. I don't know.
White made it pretty clear that Pereira has significant challenges and opportunities remaining in his own division, meaning there are still plenty of exciting fights to make at light heavyweight, and he doesn't necessarily need to jump up and face a naturally bigger opponent like Jones. While he admitted, because how could he not, that such a fight would be incredibly exciting and would probably shatter pay-per-view records, he stressed that the UFC has to think long-term about the careers and health of every fighter on their roster. It's a business. Absolutely, but these are real people risking their health, and White, whatever his flaws, does consider that aspect seriously.
Who's your favorite fighter? Like, who you respect right now?
It's gotta be Pereira. There's a point in fighters' careers where sometimes they're looking genuinely unbeatable. I think he could become the first 3-division champion in history, which is crazy.
How does he compare to Joe?
That fight, Pereira versus Jones, as a heavyweight.
Here's what we can't ignore, though. Pereira managed to move up to light heavyweight and destroy Jiri Prochaska in brutal fashion to claim the belt. And this came after he had already knocked out Israel Adesanya, one of the greatest middleweights ever, and taken his title. Think about that trajectory for a moment. His most devastating weapon has been that thunderous left hook, and I mean thunderous in the most literal sense possible, combined with a surgical precision that never wavers. What makes Pereira so fascinating, and Rogan has talked about this extensively, is his calmness under pressure. The way he systematically hunts down his opponents, never wasting movement, never losing his cool or composure. His power is surgical. His timing seems almost supernatural, like he can see things developing before they actually happen. Logan Paul jumped into the hype surrounding a potential Jones versus Pereira fight, adding his voice to the growing chorus, and it's clear from his social media that he's fully backing Pereira in this matchup. He spoke with genuine excitement about Pereira's crushing power and savagery in the cage, describing him as an unstoppable force that brings raw excitement and danger every single time he enters that cage and the door locks. Logan told his followers that a fight between Pereira and Jones wouldn't just be another event on the UFC calendar. It would be a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle that could reshape the boundaries of combat sports forever and would be discussed for generations. The idea of these two sharing the octagon is a fantasy for both fans and analysts who've been following the sport for years. Jones, the master of distance control, the guy who manages range and controls space like nobody else, versus Pereira, the knockout artist who can, in a split second, send any opponent flying with one perfectly timed strike. It's a classic clash of philosophies, strategy and fight IQ against precision and devastating power. When Charles Oliveira was asked about the rumors of a possible Jones versus Pereira fight, he was enthusiastic in his response, proudly stating that he'd be rooting for his fellow Brazilian without question. He talked about how much he respects Pereira as both a fighter and a person, and how dangerous Pereira is every single time he risks his life by entering the octagon to compete at the highest level.
Everyone wants to fight me. Connor calls it red panty night. If I were to maybe entertain fighting again, I would say the person that's most deserving it would be Alex Pereira. You know, Alex has beat many champions. He's knocking out everybody left and right. He has the opportunity to become a 3-division champion by facing me. He's more of a legend and a star in America than Aspinall.
Oliveira described, and he got really animated talking about this, how Pereira possesses a special kind of presence, the type of aura that becomes intimidating to everyone who faces him, even during stare-downs before the fight actually begins. Oliveira sees in Pereira a true warrior who's unlike any other fighter in the current landscape because of his unshakable confidence and lethal striking ability, which transforms danger into complete dominance. When Pereira walks to the cage, Oliveira explained, you can feel the energy change, and that's something only the true legends can create.
I think the only person that I've seen Aspinall fight against was Andre Arlovsky. And Andre was very old. I mean, when Aspinall won his championship, he won against Sergey. And Sergey just got his butt kicked by somebody else recently. I'm not in the business of fighting what's hot right now. At this stage of my career, it's about true legacy. And like, I have nothing but killers on my resume. And if I could do that with a guy like Pereira, a guy who's very proven, that would mean a lot more to me.
Jones seems to be motivated primarily by legacy at this stage of his career, which makes complete sense considering everything he's already achieved. In recent years, he's faced criticism for being inactive, with injuries and other issues slowing his return to active competition. However, with Pereira's rise happening so dramatically and quickly, whispers have grown throughout the MMA community, suggesting that maybe Poatan, which is Pereira's nickname, would be the man to pull Jones back to greatness, to reignite that competitive fire and give him a reason to prove himself one more time at the highest level. Jones has been quoted saying, and this reveals his mindset perfectly, "I'm not gambling my legacy on what's exciting to fans. I want legends on my resume, fighters who will be remembered 50 years from now." Pereira is direct and fearless in his approach, never backing down from anything or anyone throughout his entire combat sports career. His callouts have been respectful yet firm, challenges rather than disrespectful invitations to fight. For Jones, who has battled legendary champions like Daniel Cormier in their epic rivalry, Alexander Gustafsson in wars that went the distance, and Lyoto Machida when he was in his prime, it's easy to see the temptation that fighting someone as dangerous as Pereira represents. This isn't a battle for titles in the traditional sense, though belts would be involved, but rather a battle for legacy, for who gets remembered as the greatest when everything is finished. Jones has recently admitted in interviews that he's shifted his focus to a different target, Alex Pereira, a fighter whose meteoric rise has impressed him significantly and captured his attention. According to Jones, and he's been pretty open about this, Pereira has earned his respect through his ability to knock opponents unconscious and stay composed under pressure that would break most fighters, making him the type of opponent that Jones gets genuinely excited about preparing for. When an interviewer asked about Tom Aspinall, saying, quote, "Are you ignoring him completely? Like, is he on your radar right now?" Jones gave an interesting response. He admitted that Tom Aspinall is becoming increasingly successful in the heavyweight division with knockout after knockout, and Aspinall definitely still has a place at the table for future fights. Jones isn't dismissing him entirely. Nevertheless, Jones observed that Pereira's fearlessness and success across two divisions, conquering both middleweight and light heavyweight, and his skills have triggered his competitive spirit in a way that very few people can. Jones clarified, and he was very specific about this, that while Aspinall is doing serious work against elite competition and building an impressive resume, his focus right now is on Pereira, a dangerous champion who has captured the imagination of the entire sport, and according to Jones, his complete attention is on Pereira, because he represents everything Jones wants in a legacy fight, and he has every reason to feel that way. So the stage is now set, and everything is aligning for this to happen. Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira, a matchup that isn't just another fight on a card, but a genuine collision of legends from different eras and style. One is the most complete, most skilled fighter the game has ever seen, and the other is the most frightening, most devastating striker the sport has ever witnessed in terms of pure knockout power. Jones respects Pereira and has said so publicly. Pereira respects Jones and has shown him nothing but class, and both understand on a deep level that only one can emerge as the true king when that cage door closes. The question everyone is asking, and it's the question keeping MMA fans awake at night, is this: who takes it when everything is on the line? Does Jones's all-around mastery and will neutralize Pereira's raw power and striking, or is it that one perfectly timed shot that changes everything in a split second? Drop your predictions in the comments below because I want to hear what you think. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, because when these two finally step into that octagon together, it won't just be a fight or a scrap, but history in the making, the kind of moment that defines an era and gets replayed for decades to come.